let's get into it, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday Starter Sit live stream for Week 18 of the 2023 fantasy football season. I don't know. I always sit here. It happens every year. It goes from 2023 to 2024, and I wonder what I should call it. Should I call it the 2024 season? Technically, that's incorrect. I guess it's both, a little bit of between, but either way. Over the course of the next hour and a half, prior to the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens, we'll be answering any and all questions in regards to our Week 18 lineups. As you guys can see to the right side of the screen, I have up-to-date rankings as for the four primary positions. Top 36 running backs, wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, and tight ends. So these rankings are up to date as of this morning, around 5 a.m.-ish, with all information taken into account. Now, there are still pieces of information we're not 100% certain of. And as we progress towards tomorrow, we'll get more indications as to whether or not the rumors and or the potential injury reports are trending in the right direction. Just to go ahead and name a couple players. Excuse me. Yesterday, Khalil Herbert did not practice. That is a huge indicator in terms of his potential of not playing. Therefore, I've already gone ahead and, due to that overall injury report, put in Deontay Foreman into the rankings at running back. We got an indication yesterday. Christian Watson did not practice. So once again, we're trending in the direction that he probably does not play. Who's another player? Trevor Lawrence. He could end up playing. It's probably going to be a game time decision. I would assume because their playoff lives are on the line, he could end up playing, but I'm not 100% certain. If in fact he does get the go ahead and is going to start and play tomorrow against the Tennessee Titans, I would then at that point move up Calvin Ridley, move up Evan Ingram, and then subsequently also move up Christian Kirk, who earlier today was already gone ahead and activated from the injured reserve. I have him on my top 36 list. He's at number 35, but I don't know whether or not it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and or someone like CJ Beathard. So again, a lot of uncertainty. Raheem Mostert, Jalen Waddle, they are both ranked. I have Raheem Mostert currently. Where do I have him? At 26 at running back, Jalen Waddle sits at 18 at wide receiver. Again, not 100% certain as to whether or not they play. Those rankings are still fluid, ranking subject to change. Outside of that, again, we will go ahead and share kicker and defensive rankings over the course of today's live stream. Outside of that, I think we're good to go. In order to go ahead and allow me to share those rankings, all we need, there's 68 of us in here. If you guys want kicker and defensive rankings, let's get 50 likes. I'm going to go ahead and open up my own live stream and click the like button on it. Be greatly appreciated. You guys can go ahead and click the like button. Thank you very much. All right, let's click. I'm number 13. We're good to go. And let's get to answering questions. I'm going to go top down because, again, there aren't that many of you in here. But if you have a question, please be sure to include your scoring format. That is greatly appreciated if you guys could do so. Actually, before I even get into answering questions, really quickly, the upcoming games today, specifically the one that begins at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in an hour and a half, is the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. From the weather report that I saw, it is assumed to be, the weather report that has been kind of consistent over the course of this week is that it's going to be 99% chance of rain. So if in fact the rain is going to impact the game to the extent to which the passing game is going to be, unfortunately suffering because of it, then that's unfortunate. Now, I'm looking at 45 seconds ago from the official Baltimore Ravens Twitter account or X account, whatever you want to call it. It is raining. And that rain is probably going to persist for the entirety of this game. And it absolutely is going to impact the receiving threats of Pittsburgh. Because again, the receiving threats of the Baltimore Ravens only consist of Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar. There's no Zay Flowers. There's no Odell Beckham Jr. There's no Lamar Jackson. So as it currently stands, I've moved down George Pickens in comparison to where I had him earlier in the week based out of just fear of weather. And if in fact, as we get closer, maybe like 15 minutes before the game starts, if we can look in on it and it doesn't look like it's going to be a total pour down in which, unfortunately, the passing game is going to suffer, then we'll be good to go. Okay? Awesome. Sounds good. Let's get into answering questions. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for clicking the like button, and let's get it going. Joshua Wilkins has just sent in a super chat. Says, I got my first championship last week. Thanks for all the help, Andrew. No problem, Josh. Congratulations on the victory, and hopefully next season we can continue that. All right, let's start from the top. Donovan, thank you very much. I appreciate the thank yous and everything. Glad I could help. Legend of Trey 402 says, Josh Allen, James Conner, Kenneth Walker, Justin Jefferson, St. Brown, Mike Evans, and my bench consists of Gibbs, Nico, DJ, Olave. Who should I start? Pick 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. At this current position, legend of Trey, I wouldn't change anything. James Conner and Kenneth Walker, I both have as top 5 running backs in comparison to your alternative options. Justin Jefferson and St. Brown are the 2 highest there. And then as for your flex, if it's a matter of Gibbs and Mike Evans, let me see if I would play Gibbs over Mike Evans. Let's see here. If I go to my half PPR, let's see, Gibbs. I do not have Gibbs over Mike Evans. So Mike Evans stays at flex. You're good to go there, Legend of Trey. Thank you. Let's see here. The Brown SYS says, Najee, Diggs, or Pickens. Between those 3, I honestly think I'm probably playing Najee Harris, especially if the weather continues to persist in terms of a rain game. I would assume that the Pittsburgh Steelers win this game, and in doing so, they're going to run the ball a pretty consistent volume of times. And as we've seen over the course of the last month here, the Baltimore Ravens have struggled in terms of stopping the run. And especially if, in fact, they're going to be in a position in which they're sitting majority of their primary offensive guys and potential defenders here. We'll see the inactive list in a moment. Actually, let me see. Do the Ravens have an inactive list already sent out? Let me go to Twitter really quickly, and let me just confirm if that's the case. Let's see here. Who is in effect? Okay, so inactives for this week. Kyle Hamilton's not going to play. Marlon Humphreys is not going to play. That bodes very well for George Pickens. So we got to hope that weather shapes up. Malik Harrison's not going to play. Okay, no problem there. So that's good to go. And then, yeah, if we just look at the Baltimore Ravens, their starting defense and what they've done as late against opposing running backs. I mean, Devon Achane ran for over 107 last week. The week prior, McCaffrey ran for 103. A couple weeks prior to that, Kyron Williams went for 114. And then the week prior to that, Joe Mixon and Travion Williams combined for a total of 89 rushing yards. The week prior to that, Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt combined for 140 rushing yards. So they've given up over 140 rushing yards in 4 of the last 6 games that they have played. So if you're going to give up 100 yards plus to running backs, should be a pretty solid week for Najee Harris here. Jerry Holland says, full PPR, Connor, Cook, Hall, JT, Walker, Singletary. Of those options, I really do like the idea of playing Connor, Hall, and Walker. They've got really good matchups. JT, the issue that I have, despite the fact that I truly do believe he is the best running back of the bunch in terms of talent, in terms of scheme, they do take on one of the toughest matchups, if not the toughest matchup going into this week against the Houston Texans run stop defense, who has nullified every single running back that they have faced as of late. And it would be difficult for me to pass up on the opportunity of playing Connor, Hall, and Walker, which are 3 really talented running backs who have been really good as of late against really advantageous matchups. So that's what I'm looking to play there, Jerry. As for your follow-up question, Goddard or Juwan Johnson, considering the fact that we're in a situation in which Devontae Smith is inactive, Goddard has moved up in my rankings, and therefore I would prefer to play him over Juwan Johnson. I even had him higher than Juwan Johnson on, Thursday, but it continues to rise in terms of my rankings. We had a super chat sent in from Bale Kim. Thank you, Bale. Says, full PPR, flex, Derrick Henry or Tyler Lockett. Let me see who I have ranked higher in my full PPR. Let's look up. Where's Henry? Henry's there, and Tyler Lockett is there. I have Derrick Henry ahead of him as it currently stands. Thank you. Appreciate it, Bale. Let's see here. The Brown also followed up saying in pick 2.5 PPR, Zamir White, George Pickens, Diggs, Najee Harris, Kamara. As it currently stands, if I was to pick 2 of those, with the weather looking the way it does in Pittsburgh, the Brown, I would play Zamir White alongside of Najee Harris there. Thank you. Armand K says, do we trust Raheem Mostert this week? For week 18. I would trust him only to an extent. You have to understand that we don't know whether or not he is going to be active. And considering week 18, he plays in the Sunday Night Football game against the Buffalo Bills. So it's quite literally the final game of the week. You won't have a pivoting option outside of maybe Jeff Wilson Jr. with him. And I think considering he's been dealing with the injury for the last couple weeks, he may actually be the backup to, he may play second fiddle per se to Devon Achane, which is why I have him where I do in my ranking. But I guess it's just about a matter of how risk averse you are in this scenario. If it's me, I try to find an alternative option because I would hate to have to play Jeff Wilson Jr. when I know he's probably only going to get himself like, 4 or 5 points if we're lucky in comparison to alternative options. John Silva says, half PPR, pick 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Bijan Robinson, Kamara. Okay, so let's talk about those 4 running backs in specific. If I was going to play 2 of the 4, Bijan Robinson has to play, and then alongside of him, in regards to my half PPR rankings that we see on screen, I have David Montgomery as the next best guy. Moving on with that question, you had Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Pickens, and Jaden Reed. If I'm playing 2 of those guys, it's probably Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore. And then if I'm flexing one of these guys, it's probably, I'd probably flex Jaden Reed there. So I go Bijan, Montgomery, Tyreek, DJ Moore, Jaden Reed. That's the way that I would go about it. And then as for your follow-up question, also, will have Sanders at kicker, or should I pick up Myers? I have Myers literally 1 spot ahead of Jason Sanders. What are we at in terms of likes? Again, for those of you who are joining us today, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible. The rankings to the right side of the screen are up to date as of this morning in regards to those primary positions. If you guys want me to go ahead and share kicker and defensive rankings, let's get that like number to 50, and I'd be more than happy to share it with you guys. But as of right now, I do like Jason Myers and Jason Sanders. They're both great, but I do have Jason Myers just 1 ranking ahead, so I don't mind you just keeping it as is. Ham says in the chat, play 3. ETN, JT, Zamir White, and James Conner, PPR. ETN, JT, Zamir White, James Conner. If I'm playing 3 of those guys, it's James Conner, number 1, Jonathan Taylor, 2, and Travis Etienne, 3 in a PPR. Zamir White sits out of the 4 options there, Ham. All right, let's see here. Hi, Andrew. Did you do up your week pick'ems? Yeah, I mean, we went over it yesterday in regards to the live stream that I had, and even the day before. If we're looking for pick'em plays this week, I think let me just pull it up on my screen just so that I can reference to it. The 2 plays that I like, first and foremost, the one that I like the most is Josh Allen anytime rushing touchdown. Josh Allen has rushed for a touchdown in 12 of the last 14 games, and in those last 14 games, he scored a total of 15 rushing touchdowns. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns in each of the last 2 weeks. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns in 3 of the last 5 games, but he's also on I think a 6 consecutive game streak of scoring a rushing touchdown. So Josh Allen, anytime touchdown on Underdog is a great play. As for alternative plays, let me see if there's another one that I really like. I do like the idea of, I don't know if it currently still stands, but I do like the idea of Nico Collins going over his reception count. I think it's at 5.5. Let me confirm if that's still the number. Nico, yeah, it's still at 5.5. I would take the higher on that. Those are 2 solid plays as it currently stands, but we can go into more as we continue on today's live stream. All right, let's see here. Howard Mighty says pick 3, Kirk, Slayton, Dortch, Demarcus Robinson, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Addison. So considering Howard, we won't know if Trevor Lawrence is active until tomorrow. I would probably just wait, because if in fact he is active, I would move Christian Kirk almost ahead of, I'd say, 60% of these players. So as it currently stands, I want to play Darius Slayton out of this group, Howard. And then the next best I'd probably end up positioning towards is someone like, let's see, it's probably Demarcus Robinson. Yeah, so I'd probably look to play like Slayton, Demarcus Robinson. Do you have another option here? Pick 3, yeah. So this is the way that I would probably suggest going about it, Howard. Let's plan for going Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, and Kirk. And if in fact Trevor Lawrence does not play tomorrow, instead of playing Kirk, we'll then just pivot to playing someone like Greg Dortch or Jordan Addison. We'll have to wait and see until tomorrow. But as it currently stands, that's what I'm comfortable with. Silver Raptor says pick 3 in a full PPR. Breece Hall, Barkley, Zamir, Kamara, and Singletary. Considering Kamara is still on the bubble as to whether or not he plays, I'm probably not going to suggest him. I don't even have him ranked. He's a TBD kind of player, to be determined as to whether or not he's even active. So as it currently stands, Breece Hall, automatic start. Between these alternative options, Zamir White, and then I'd also play Barkley. Those are the 3 that I like. DeHolmes says, George Pickens or Stephon Diggs for the finals. If the weather in Pittsburgh in about, let's say, an hour is manageable, then we'll play George Pickens there. If it's not, then I'd be just, kind of pressed to playing Stephon Diggs Well, I mean, Stephon is not even a bad play. I mean, Xavier Howard is not playing this week. He is out for the Miami Dolphins, so that makes it a little bit easier. But nonetheless, I think the weather is going to pretty much make that decision because I want to play Pickens. Don't get me wrong, I want to. But the weather may lead me towards not doing so. Sergio says, who you got winning, Steelers or Ravens? I would assume that the Steelers would win, especially considering the Ravens are literally sitting their offense. So if they're not capable of scoring the ball because, Melvin Gordon's playing running back and Tyler Huntley's throwing to Nelson Aguilar, then I would assume that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the advantage and probably should win today. We had a couple super chats that were sent in. Let me go ahead and address these really quickly. Famous Maker says, thank you for the great content and advice, Andrew. I greatly appreciate that, Famous. Appreciate it. Thank you. Doug has sent in a question via super chat. Thank you, Doug. Doug says, set my lineup. I have one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, and one flex in a full PPR scoring format. We have Fields and Stroud as our potential quarterbacks. Okay, between the two, yeah, I would like to play Fields. If you want to play Stroud, you can. I think they're both great quarterback plays, but the rushing potential that Fields has demonstrated over the course of the last couple weeks and the fact that the Bears are, as of late, trending in the right direction leads me to believe this should be an exciting matchup against Green Bay. So as it stands, I'd like to play Fields. As for the running back options you have available, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, Jamal Williams, and Pierre Strong. Out of the group, considering we have Elijah Mitchell fully practicing yesterday, he would be probably one of the guys that I want to play a running back, but I also want to play Aaron Jones alongside of him, mainly because A.J. Dillon is inactive, and even though they're taking on Chicago, which is a difficult matchup, Aaron Jones back-to-back weeks of 120 rushing yards is going to get himself the receiving utilization out of this backfield, and if you go back to week 1, the way they utilized him against Chicago really did put in a number against them prior to leaving with his hamstring injury. So Aaron Jones and Mitchell will be the two running backs in that circumstance. As for the wide receivers that you have available, Lamb, Slayton, Dortch, Atwell, Kirk, Woods. Woods did not practice all week, so I don't even think he plays, which makes Nico Collins an even bigger... actually, we'll know in a couple hours. But anyway, Lamb, obviously, starts, Doug. Alongside of Lamb, I would play Darius Slayton, honestly. And then as for your tight end play, I would end up going Evan Ingram there very confidently, regardless of whether it is CJ Beathard and or Trevor Lawrence, because they both like to target Evan Ingram at a high capacity. And then as for your flex, I probably end up playing... If Kamara doesn't go, I'd probably end up playing Jamal Williams in the flex. If Kamara does play, at that point, I would pivot to most likely playing Christian Kirk, assuming Trevor Lawrence is active. Otherwise, it would be Greg Dortch. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. All right. Let me go ahead and scroll back up in regards to some of these rankings. We did get to 50 plus likes, so I'm going to go ahead and share kicker and defense rankings. There you guys go. Let me scroll back up to some of these other questions that you guys had sent in the live chat. So who do we have? Okay, so we were there. Dustin Poole in the chat was saying, I have Singletary and Taylor for my running backs. Okay, cool. You're good to go. I need one for the flex, Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren. I would play Najee. Well, okay. This is the way that I see it. In a rain game in which they're playing against Baltimore, with Baltimore not having much of an offensive threat, probably punting for majority of the game, it will make it pretty easy for this team. I can see, look, let's just put it this way. Considering I expect to see the Steelers win, Najee Harris has himself a pretty good streak of games in which, in every game that they have won this season, or, every single touchdown he has scored this season has been in the game in which they have won. He's never scored a touchdown when they lose. So I would hope to assume that maybe they can, potentially continue the streak, get himself a high volume of overall touches like he did last week, and continue the overall success. Steven says, I need one, Ty Chandler or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would very happily play Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Ty Chandler this week. Thank you. Benny G, what's up, Benny? Hope you're doing well. Says, let's go, Andrew. Thanks for the massive season, legend. Thank you very much, Benny. Appreciate it. Howard Mighty says, anyone know which wide receivers will be starting for the Texans? Yeah, I would assume it's Noah. I would assume it's Nico Collins and John Mechie. I would assume those are the 1-2 combo. Let me confirm. Let me see here. If I go to Houston and then it'll assuming we're in a situation where we already know that Noah Brown is inactive and Robert Woods potentially doesn't play, considering he didn't practice all week. If in fact we're in a situation in which that takes place, the number one would be The number one would be Nico Collins. Number 2 would be John Mechie. Number 3 would be Xavier Hutchinson. That's the way that it would kind of stack up. Let's see here. After that, we had a question in the chat that said, Mac Oxford said, Kamara decision. Going to be down to the wire as well. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Mark says, what band plays on your lead-in? I know the song's name is Double Helix. As for I don't know if it's a band. I think it's just a specific artist. Maybe you can look into it. Honestly, it fades my memory. But I know it's typically like in the description because YouTube kind of like clips it in there. Let's see here. Mike said, okay, so we took care of that. Bill in the chat said, let me just skip these ads that YouTube's trying to put in. Ravens or Packers defense? I'd like to play neither of them, to be honest. Howard Mighty says, will the Lions starters be playing the whole game? Anyone know? As it currently stands, I would assume that they would. Mitch says, PPR, how do you rank Laporta in regards to the likes of Saquon and Zamir White? I need to play, I would much rather play Saquon and Zamir White ahead of Laporta, even in a full PPR. Thanks for the question there, Mitch. Robert Newman says, PPR, Zamir White, Mike Evans, or Bijan Robinson. Out of the three options there, let me go to my full PPR rankings, flex. Bijan Robinson is ranked the highest of the bunch. If we go Bijan 1, Mike Evans 2, and then Zamir White number 3. Stephen Reese says, full PPR, Ty Chandler, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Elijah Mitchell, start 2. I would play Clyde Edwards alongside Elijah Mitchell there, Stephen. Famous Maker says, Ravens or Las Vegas defense? Ravens, if I was to pick one of the two, it would be Las Vegas' defense. Yeah, that's the one that I would prefer to play. Leonard Andrews says, would y'all start Reed or Zeke? I'd like to just rather play Zeke. I'd rather play Reed considering his... honestly, Zeke is just as much of a touchdown machine as of late, but as it currently stands, I feel pretty comfortable playing Jaden Reed. Let's see here. Phil says, Gibbs, Pollard, Jacobs, and Kamara. I'm playing Gibbs and Pollard in RB1 and 2, right? Gibbs, Pollard. Yeah, because Jacobs is not playing and Kamara is injured. So, yeah, you play Gibbs and Pollard. You're good to go there, Phil. Hope you're doing well, Phil. Let's see here. Gerardo says, good afternoon from downtown LA. Dallas or Tampa Bay defense? Thanks. Yeah, so you probably asked that a little bit earlier. Let me just go ahead. I'm going to jump to the bottom of the chat in just a moment. But yeah, rankings are on screen. Dallas is my number 1 defense. Tampa Bay is my number 4 for this week. Let's see here. Thank you very much, B-Dog. Appreciate that. Okay, this is Riaz S says full PPR start 2 Gibbs, DK, Zamir White. I'd probably play, if I'm playing 2 of those 3 in a full PPR, it's probably Gibbs and DK Metcalf there. Dougie P says, hey guys, love the channel. Yeah. Somebody said that yesterday. Now we're starting to copy paste each other's comments. That was a good one from yesterday. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump to the kind of more up-to-date questions. If you guys didn't hear an answer as of yet, you can go ahead and just repost your question, but I'm going to go ahead and just jump on down. We had a super chat just sent in from Bruce Cowdrey. Bruce, hope you're doing well. Thank you very much. Says, please rank in a full PPR. Select 1. Brandon Cooks, Darius Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, Greg Dortch. If I'm playing one of those 4, I'm probably playing Brandon Cooks. As for your follow-up question, tight end, need 1. Bryant, Noah Gray. Need 1. Bryant or Noah Gray? Let's see here. Harrison Bryant, I have at number 20. Well, actually, what's your scoring format? Is it a full PPR? Yeah, it is full PPR. So as it currently stands, I have Harrison Bryant as my number 21 tight end. I have Noah Gray at 16. Harrison Bryant could get himself a lot of utilization. My only concern with Harrison Bryant is that I don't know if the other tight end, Jordan Akins, is also going to get himself utilization to the point in which it may impact the upside of Harrison Bryant. I know that Noah Gray would be the next man up with Kelsey potentially out, so that's why I feel a little bit more confident in that scenario. All right, let's see here. Let me scroll back up. All right, Juan in the chat says, what's up, Andrew? Won my championship last week. Just wanted to stop by and say thanks for all the content. Thank you very much, Juan. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Tano Martin says, hey, Andrew, pick 2 in a PPR. Singletary, Mixon, Mostert, and Zamir White. If I'm picking 2 of these 4 in a full PPR, I probably end up playing Zamir White alongside of Mixon. Max says, I don't know, man. Aaron Jones has been a huge letdown all year, and Chicago's run defense has been really good. Yeah, I mean, listen, to each their own. If you don't want to play Aaron Jones, again, you're the final decision maker. I don't have a problem with that. Charlie B says in a half PPR, Connor, Singletary, Jones, or Zeke. So Connor has to play out of those four, and I think Zeke is probably the next best. As for the third best option of the group, I'd probably end up going with Aaron Jones there. I like Singletary a lot. I think this may be a game in which CJ Stroud really just airs it out. So as of right now, I'd probably just go with Connor, Aaron Jones, and Zeke there, Charlie. Thank you. Easy says full PPR, Stroud or Love. I currently have Love ranked higher. Let me go to change the rankings on screen just so we're all up to date in that regard. Again, the rankings that are on the right side of the screen are up to date as of this morning. So if you guys have any questions in regards to these primary positions, half PPR, 4-point per passing touchdown, hopefully the rankings on screen can guide you in the right direction in regards to the interpositional rankings. So let's see here. I would prefer to play Love over Stroud. Flex Reed, Henry, or Kamara, or Williams. Am I crazy for starting New England's defense? No, New England's defense I have very highly ranked, and I would prefer to play Reed out of all those alternative options in a full PPR. They're easy. Javi says, pick 2, Achane, Henry, Singletary, Waddle, Addison, and Puka. As it currently stands, if I'm picking 2 of those options, potentially, so at this point, Javi, I'm playing Achane, and I would probably not risk waiting for Waddle. You don't have an alternative. I wouldn't play Puka. I wouldn't play Addison. So then it comes down to Henry or Devin Singletary. And as it currently stands, I probably end up playing Henry alongside Achane. Riaz S says, full PPR, start 2 Gibbs, DK. Okay, we already answered that. We'll go with Gibbs and DK. Good to go there. We scroll down. We had a question that came in from Jake Rudloff, who says, full PPR, Zamir White or Jonathan Taylor? I'd probably take Jonathan Taylor in that circumstance. We took care of Charlie B earlier. Eduardo Torres says, I'm in the title game. Who do I start? Jordan Addison, Drake London, Jordan Mason, Pierre Strong, or Greg Dortch? Of those, interesting. So of those options, I probably end up playing, how do I want to go about this? It's probably Drake London. Let's see here. Addison, London, yeah, I mean, actually, if it's me, okay, so depending on scoring format, Eduardo, if it's like a half PPR, I'd probably play Pierre Strong there. If it's a full PPR, I'd probably then pivot to playing someone like Greg Dortch because I know he'll get a higher volume of receptions. So that's kind of the direction that I'm leaning towards there, Eduardo. Let's see here. Miguel says, Andrew, what's your favorite overs, unders this week? I don't really pay attention to overs and unders. So I honestly couldn't tell you. And I don't want to give you a suggestion and make you lose money. So if I'm not confident about it, I won't suggest it. All right, let's scroll down here. What do we got here? Okay, so let me scroll back up a little bit. All right, so Mac had said, I got Pickens, Sutton, Lockett, Slayton, Zay, and Chark. I need to play 3 to PPR. Pickens would play, Sutton would play, and it's probably Slayton as the number 3 option there. Those are the 3 that I would go with. Let's see here. Howard Mighty says, Andy, why do you rank the Bengals defense over the Jaguars? Yeah, mainly because the Cleveland Browns are sitting their whole offense. So there's no Joe Flacco. There's probably going to be, or no, it's for sure, there's probably not going to be Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, David Njoku. Therefore, it's probably in a position in which Jeff Driscoll is going to be leading guys like Cedric Wilson, Harrison Bryant, and what's the other guy's name? The second-year wide receiver, something. I think his last name is Bell. Those are his best options, right? So Jeff Driscoll is going to be in a little bit of a tough situation here this week. Therefore, I think Cincinnati, who's going to be starting their whole primary number 1 defense, while the Cleveland Browns, on the other hand, are trying to rest and prepare for the playoffs, are going to be subject to probably getting beat up a little bit there. Let's see here. EHOV Spy says, hey, Andrew, looking ahead, when do you come back with pre-draft next season? Every season I've started August 1st. So if anything changes, you'll see it. But as it currently stands, it probably looks like it'll probably be an August 1st start once again. Could be earlier, but no promises. I think August 1st is always safe in regards to pre-draft process and all that kind of jazz. The thing is, I never want to start too early because there's so much fluctuation in fantasy football that 1 week, if you start in, I don't know, if you start in June, that same information that you display out in June could very easily change by the time you get to September 1st, right? And you don't draft until September 1st, right? So like in some of these scenarios, it is tough to start too early. But yeah, I would say August is pretty safe bet there. K-Tip says, you have Mitchell listed, but everyone else is saying Mason will play more. Who to trust of those two? I mean, look, from what I have seen over the course, unless Kyle Shanahan has specifically come out and said, we're playing Jordan Mason more. Let's see here. Kyle Shanahan. Elijah Mitchell. Let's see. Is there anything on the internet that says anything in terms of news as of late? I mean, honestly, there's nothing as of late in terms of, unless you guys can find it. If Kyle Shanahan over the course of the week has come out and said, yeah, we're going to play Jordan Mason as the number one, if he has said that, sure. But over the course of the last couple seasons, his actions have demonstrated that he prefers to utilize Elijah Mitchell. And there's a reason why anytime Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he's the number 2 to Christian McCaffrey, and he's the active one in comparison to Jordan Mason. So considering Elijah Mitchell fully practiced on Friday, I would assume that they would give him the go, considering Kyle Shanahan has, over the course of the last couple of seasons, demonstrated that he prefers to utilize him as that next best back. So as it currently stands, that's why I have Elijah Mitchell there. If there's any other information that I am missing, which absolutely could be the case, we'll have to go and kind of sift through some of the overall press conferences earlier this week in regards to Kyle Shanahan, but I would assume that Elijah Mitchell gets the bulk majority. All right, let's see here. Danny says, what does this say? What DFS tight end do you have today? I don't play DFS. So if I had to pick one of those two, Pat Freiermuth or Schultz, I'd rather play Schultz. Scott says, do you think Jalen Hurts will play the whole game? Yes. Because they're trying to win in order to have a higher seed in the playoffs, in order to ensure, maybe let's say, for example, they're in a reality in which Dallas loses and, Philly wins. They would get the number 2 seed. They would win their division and they would get, home field advantage for the playoffs. Let's see here. We took care of that. We took care of that question. Dean Foster in the chat says, Olave, Pickens, Reed, Zamir White, Khalil Herbert. Pick 2 wide receivers in a flex in a full PPR. I would play Olave, Reed, and Zamir White there, Dean. Spud 2009 says, need 2 wide receivers in a full PPR. Darius Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. As it currently stands, out of those potential options in a full PPR, I would play that's a different question. Zamir White was the question above. I play Darius Slayton and probably Jackson Smith and Jigba there. Why do you have the Bengals defense ranked so high? Yeah, okay, so we answered that because, again, the Cleveland offense is playing all their backups. What's good, Andrew? I don't really understand the low rankings of Mullins compared to Tyrod in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. Well, the rankings on screen are for a 4-point per passing touchdown league. And the issue that I have with Nick Mullins is that he throws interceptions. And he doesn't just throw one interception, he throws multiple interceptions, which, of course, makes it that much more difficult to trust him, right? So regardless of whether or not he could throw a singular touchdown, if the dude throws 2 picks, it's nullified. Then we're just based on, okay, we have to hope that his yardage alone is going to be able to carry us. Sure, last time out against Detroit threw for 411 overall yards, but I just don't know if I can outright trust him in comparison to Tyrod, who just a couple weeks back demonstrated in the second half that he could be a great play against Philly. Philly struggling on top of it. And last week, Tyrod against the LA Rams defense put up a pretty solid performance there, especially late in the game. Let's see here. Do you trust Jarrett Stidham to throw to Sutton? I would trust that Jarrett Stidham wants to go ahead and earn a job for next year. So he's probably going to try to utilize his best receivers. Sure, last week, Jordan Humphreys caught the touchdown for the Denver Broncos, and it's possible that another one of these random receivers catch a touchdown this week. But Cortland Sutton is by far and away the best wide receiver in that offense, so I would assume that the ball would be going in his direction. Let's see here. Jake asks Zamir White, Jacoby Myers, or Adam Thielen. I play Zamir White out of those 3 options there. Brantley Evans says full PPR. I have Laporta and McBride, as well as CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray. Per your rankings, roll with the stack ? Yeah, as of right now, those are the 2 that I prefer. If I'm splitting hairs and picking, 2 of those 4 options, technically, one tight end and 1 quarterback, I would play Kyler over Stroud, and I would play Trey McBride over Sam Laporta. Robert Christensen says, full PPR, 4 running backs needed. We have Connor, Gibbs, Montgomery, Achane, and Singletary, and CH. Connor, Achane, Gibbs are the 3 that... Connor, Achane, Gibbs, Montgomery. Those are the 4 that I would play there, Robert. All right, Rohan says, I'm up 16 going into week 18. And I have to pick 3 running backs between James Conner, Breece Hall, James Cook, and Jonathan Taylor. Full PPR, thanks. Let's see here. James Conner, Breece Hall, James Cook. Yeah, so as of right now, James Cook sits. I would rather play James Conner, Breece Hall, and Jonathan Taylor out of those alternative options there. Rohan, thank you. Easy says, Andrew, how do we feel about Jake Ferguson? Again, I've said it for the last couple weeks, whether it's on live stream or whether it's in my rankings videos. Jake Ferguson is pretty much like a safe 4 catches, 40 yards guy. If he scores a touchdown, fantastic. If he doesn't, he's 6 points in a half PPR scoring format. Now, in comparison to other running backs, considering the offense he's associated with, he certainly has more upside of a touchdown than other tight end options that are in offenses that either don't target them in the red zone or just don't score as often. So he is a better option than other alternative players, but still has his limitations based on his overall usage. Let's see here. Chase or Aaron Jones in a full PPR flex? In a full PPR, I'm fairly certain I have Jamar Chase ranked higher. Let me confirm this. Flex, full PPR. Jamar Chase is there. I do have Jamar Chase ahead of Aaron Jones in a full PPR, especially considering T. Higgins is going to be missing this week. I might have Jamar Chase too low ranked. That might be my only concern. That's the only thing that I'm looking at. I'm like, is 14 too low for Jamar Chase? I understand, like, it's Jake Browning. Him with Jake Browning, he's only played 1 good game. The other ones have been kind of lackluster, but without T. Higgins there, could have himself a monster week. We'll see. NH says, hi from El Salvador. Playing in the championship game, I'm down 26. I need 3 running backs out of the following: Bijan, Harris, Warren, Montgomery, Singletary. Okay, so 3 of those options. I would go with Bijan, Harris, and Montgomery. As for your follow-up question, defense, Saints or Tampa Bay, I prefer to play Tampa Bay mainly because they play against Bryce Young, and the Carolina Panthers have given up their fair share of fantasy points to opposing defenses. Thank you very much, NH. Sam Morales says, Sanders or Fairbairn? As it currently stands, let me go ahead and change this. I have Kaimi Fairbairn as my number 2, and I have Jason Sanders as my number 9 all the way across there, as you can see. So that's currently the way I have it. Let's see here. Robert Christensen said, I meant Connor, Bijan, Gibbs, CEH, Singletary, Connor. You mentioned Connor twice. I think the first time around you mentioned somebody else twice, but I was able to decipher it. Either way, Robert, still Connor, Bijan, and Gibbs. Those are the 3. If you're playing a 4th, then it would probably be Singletary. Let's see here. Where are we at? Daniel says, is Achane a higher ceiling play compared to Jonathan Taylor? I would say yes, if in fact we were in a scenario in which we knew that Raheem Mostert wasn't going to play. But considering we don't have that information privy to us as of yet, I would probably sit here and say, there's a potential in which Raheem Mostert could be active. In that game, he could steal a goal line carry and definitely impact the overall potential for upside in the case of Achane. But yeah, for right now, He does if, in fact, Raheem Mostert's out. Otherwise, I would probably just lean towards playing Jonathan Taylor. But we always know that Achane has super high potential for ceiling because with one carry, he could go to the house, right? In any given circumstance. John Silva says, should I pick up Matt Gay or Jason Sanders? I currently have Matt Gay ranked higher. They're indoors. Safe scenario there. Do Jason Sanders and the boys play indoors in Arizona or is it in Seattle? Let me check. It's in Arizona, so they've also got the indoor advantage there. So both are pretty good options. DeHolmes says, Diggs or Pickens? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's check the weather in Baltimore right now. What are we looking at right now? What are we looking at? So let's see. What does this weather even look like? I mean, it's a rain game. And it's going to be a rain game. So the question is, can we trust Mason Rudolph and George Pickens in a rain game in comparison to Diggs? What's your follow-up question at DeHolmes? Lions or Jets, full PPR? Between the Lions and Jets, I'd much rather play the Jets defense, especially considering they play against, in comparison, I understand that Nick Mullins has the ability to turn over the ball a pretty considerable amount, but when we want to talk about turnovers, Bailey Zappe's the king of that. So I would play the Jets defense. But as for Diggs and Pickens, I don't want to overreact to this weather, but it is raining. Decisions. What do I want to do here? What would I do? It's my team. I have George Pickens, who's been on fire as of late. Dude, the downpour, I don't like it. I just don't like it, especially with a grass field. Then it just becomes so slippery. It just becomes a problem running routes. For right now, until something changes, until the weather looks better, unless someone's got boots on the ground, I'm not playing George Pickens there in comparison to Stephon Diggs, because I'm looking at it from a post from literally 1 minute ago from the Twitter account handle at Steelers Unite. That rain is going, man. It is pouring down, so I don't like it. Thank you for your question, DeHolmes. All right, let me scroll back up here. Daniel, we took care of you. We took care of that. Zach Moe says, would you gamble on a Kyler double stack with Dortch and McBride? I don't mind it. I think Seattle's defense has played poorly enough to where I could trust that could be a pretty solid play. Kazay says, PPR pick one, Sutton, London, DeMarcus Robinson, Kirk. Out of those options, I probably end up playing Sutton number one. If in fact we can get a confirmation that Trevor Lawrence is playing, I may feel more comfortable potentially pivoting and going with Christian Kirk because of the full PPR capacity, but as of right now, it is Sutton until otherwise noted. Tyrell Clay says, does Reed's ranking change if Watson returns? Also, thoughts on Pollard's usage with Dowdle returning. Pollard's usage should probably, last week they did use Deuce Vaughn, right? So it wasn't that in the absence of Rico Dowdle, Tony Pollard had significantly more overall snaps, right? They played in comparison to earlier this season, pretty similar numbers in terms of overall snaps played. So they did use Deuce Vaughn 12% of the time last week. A couple situations in which there were zero back sets, but nonetheless, Rico Dowdle can absolutely impact him in any given moment. But the question is going to be, are the Dallas Cowboys going to do to the Washington Commanders what they did last time, which is they're going to score all their points as an offense and then late in the game to get a defensive touchdown to tack it on? If that's going to be the case, Tony Pollard should have himself a pretty solid game, because literally every running back that has played against the Washington Commanders for the last 10 weeks has had themselves double-digit fantasy points. And even their backups in these circumstances have scored double-digit fantasy points. So pretty good matchup. I'm not too worried about Pollard in that scenario. Let's see here. Brantley was saying, how do we feel about Joe Mixon with Cincinnati likely out of the playoffs and Browns surging? I have Jalen Warren on my bench as well. So here's the thing. The Browns are surging, but they're also not starting their main guys, primarily because they've already made the playoffs. And regardless of win or lose this week, they're in a scenario in which the Browns are going to be they're going to be the top wild card seed. So they're going to play against whoever is going to be on that AFC, whoever the top AFC team is, the top AFC South team is, most likely, because they'll probably have the worst record of the bunch. So as it currently stands, considering the Browns are not going to be starting their main guys, I like Mixon today. That's why I have him ranked where I do. Let's see here. After DeHome sent to the super chat, there was one from El Sway. El Sway says, full PPR. But first and foremost, El Sway, thank you very much for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it, my man. Says full PPR. Pick a wide receiver 2 out of Lockett, Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, and Kirk. So as it currently stands, I would go with Slayton as that wide receiver 2. If Kirk can get the confirmation of Trevor Lawrence by tomorrow, I feel more comfortable going in that direction, but I don't know if I would take him over Slayton even then. As for your follow-up there for the flex, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, Ronnie Rivers, or Demarcus Robinson, CEH, Kirk, Lockett, Slayton. Foreman is on the waivers. Okay, so we need a wide receiver 2 in a flex in a full PPR. That's the situation elsewhere. So I'd probably play Slayton as that wide receiver. And as for your flex, I'd probably lean towards playing, if in fact we can get a confirm. Okay, so if by tomorrow Khalil Herbert is once again injured, he didn't practice yesterday due to a back injury. If in fact tomorrow we get a confirmation that he's not playing, and it's going to be Deontay Foreman. Deontay Foreman would probably be the guy that I'm flexing. If in fact they say, hey, Khalil Herbert's going to play, but also Foreman's going to be active, I'd avoid both of them, and I would just play CEH there. Thank you for your question, Elseway. Let's see here. Andrew, which round would you draft Eckler in next year's draft? Depends what team he's on. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a extension. Let's see here. Austin Eckler. Okay, let's see here. If I'm looking at his contract as it currently stands, yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2024. And assuming, the Chargers get a new coach, maybe they want to get younger, maybe they want to not pay a running back their third contract, which again, typically, the history of the NFL suggests that you shouldn't pay a running back their third contract, and you might as well just go and draft a rookie or get someone that is a cheaper value. I mean, just think about the potential of maybe even trading for another running back. You could go ahead and get someone who's still on a rookie deal. I think he probably doesn't end up with the Chargers next year, so that'll really depend on where he goes. Let's see here. Jaha Senpai says Justin Tucker or Kaimi Fairbairn, and I prefer Fairbairn there, especially considering I'm looking at the weather in Baltimore and I don't like it. Latrell says full PPR. I need one for the flex. Jaden Reed or JSN or Michael Wilson. I take Jaden Reed. I know he's questionable, but he's probably going to play, and he'll probably play well once again as he has over the course of the last 2 months now. Let's hear Lenny V23. Thank you very much for the super chat. Lenny V says, can only start 2. Pickens, Ridley, Achane. So Achane's the automatic there. Considering the weather conditions. All right, so this is what I would say. Yeah, considering the weather conditions, George Pickens is a lesser play in my mind. I'd probably just go with Calvin Ridley. If I could get a confirmation 100% that it's Trevor Lawrence, I'd be even happier. But as it currently stands, I don't love the weather conditions. So I'd probably just play Ridley and HN there, Lenny. Mark says Wentz or Tyrod Taylor. I have Wentz. Let's see here. I have Carson Wentz as my number 19 ranked quarterback. So I don't have him in the top 16 per se, but after today, after Minshew, Stroud is off the list, he'll be on there tomorrow. So we'll be mentioning him tomorrow probably. Let's see here. We took care. Okay, Braun says Andrew. Okay, so we took care of that one. Latrell we took care of. Sam Morales said Khalil Herbert, Kamara, or D-Hop at my flex. Standard scoring. Again, Khalil Herbert would have to play tomorrow, and Deontay Foreman would have to be a healthy scratch in order for me to feel confident playing Herbert. Kamara needs to. I don't even know if I would play Kamara there. I mean, I like him as a running back, but I don't like the Atlanta matchup, and I don't like the fact that he's injured. So he could be limited. Honestly, it might just be a D-Hop play there, Sam. Donovan Daniel says, I prefer Minshew over Carr, but what's the reason for Carr's ranking? Just consistency. Like, as of late, if we're comparing the two quarterbacks in terms of touchdown and yardage and their potential success for fantasy as of late, Minshew just, especially within that own offense, has a lesser likelihood of being that 2-touchdown guy with 250 yards in comparison to what we have witnessed Derek Carr produce over the course of the last, 4 consecutive games, 2+ touchdowns, in comparison to Minshew, who struggles to be able to accomplish that, mainly because of the offense he's associated with and the concerted effort to make sure the running game is a huge part of the offense. And of course, Jonathan Taylor, or whoever the running back is associated with him at the time, is getting that rushing touchdown upside. So that's just mainly the reason why I prefer Carr in that scenario. But if you prefer Minshew, I don't mind it. Again, they're very closely ranked. Jacob says full PPR, Monty, Zeke, or Chase in the flex. I have Chase ranked highest of the bunch. Let's see here. Sam, we took care of you. Lenny, okay, cool. Tyrell Clay says, looks like Wicks and Watson should be back. What gives you the indication that Watson's back? He didn't even practice tomorrow or yesterday. With Watson missing practice on Friday, I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that he probably misses. Like, if you're coming back from a hamstring injury, what's the incentive of them not practicing you on Friday? Is it because they're like, all right, you're good to go, we don't need you to practice because we don't want to hurt you? Like, if you're at a point to where you can't even practice fully because they're afraid of you getting hurt, then I can't even trust you playing because you may actually pull your hamstring again during the game, right? So Watson, I think, is going to be limited even if he plays, and I don't think he does. Now, Dontavion Wicks, he's going to play, and he's going to be solid. I have him as my number 37 ranked wide receiver, just right outside the list. He'll be ranked tomorrow once we remove all the Pittsburgh Steelers, Indianapolis Colts, and of course Houston Texans out of the wide receiver list. Anyway, Tyrell, as for your question, start Michael Pittman Jr. tonight over Reed. Given Love, will have more options. Ooh, I don't know if Reed takes any backseat to anyone in that offense. Truly, I don't think he does. So I'd probably still play Reed, but if you want to play Michael Pittman Jr., I mean, again, you're in such a great position considering you have 2 great top 12 options. If you want to play Michael Pittman Jr. just to be safe, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think they're both fantastic plays this weekend. Let's see here. We took care of that. San Antonio Movement says DeMarcus Robinson or Calvin Ridley. I'll take Calvin Ridley regardless of who plays quarterback. Isaiah Sanders says Brandon Cooks or James Cook full PPR. Let me check who I have ranked higher. I would assume I have Brandon Cooks ranked higher as it currently stands. Let's see here. Hey Andrew, what is a proper punishment for commissioners that have a Week 18 championship? Honestly, they should. You don't want to know my. Okay, you want to know my opinion. That's why you asked. If a commissioner is intentionally setting up a Week 18 championship, because that's what they prefer and they like the chaos of what it, provides, I would lean towards the direction where they probably shouldn't be the commissioner of your league. And if it's a friend group, if it's a work thing, be like, all right, let me be the commissioner this upcoming season because you obviously are just selling the bag for us. Chris Foy says Zamir White or Pollard. Zamir has no Josh Jacobs now. I mean, look, Josh Jacobs hasn't been there for 4 straight weeks, right? Zamir White in the last 3 consecutive games, 10+ fantasy points in each of those scenarios, right? So we're going to assume that Zamir White's going to have himself another successful game here against the Denver Broncos defense that cannot stop the run this season. So he's going to be great. Tony Pollard, mainly because they take on the Washington Commanders, is going to be great. I think they're both fantastic options. If you prefer one over the other, go for it. Otherwise, my rankings are on screen. I prefer Pollard this week. Howard Mighty says, will Mixon play the whole game? Yeah, why not? Again, think about it this way. Very similar to Eckler, I'm fairly certain Joe Mixon doesn't have a contract for next year. He is not set to return to the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, actually, so they have a potential opt-out. So let's just put it that way. He technically has an opt-out. They could go ahead and just cut him after this offseason. if I'm Joe Mixon, I'm trying everything in my best power and everything in my overall efforts to be able to put forth performance after performance of great play so that they can't cut me, right? So why wouldn't Joe Mixon play the whole game? He doesn't need to be healthy for week 19. They're not making the playoffs. So I would assume he'd come out, try to put up a great game, beat a division rival, and be a competitor. And of course, try to ensure that you can continue your career as a Cincinnati Bengal, because when Joe Burrow comes back next year healthy, ready to go, they're going to be lighting it up. So I assume he'll play well, and I assume he'll play the entire game for sure. Again, guys, even though some of these teams don't have something to play for, I'm telling you, they do. Like, technically, from our perspective, for fantasy purposes, we look at it and we think, oh, well, they're not making the playoffs, so what's the point? These guys got to make a livelihood, right? They've got to make sure that every snap that they play is maximum effort, because someone this offseason, whether it's a scout for a different team or scout for your own team, they're going to be watching that film and they're going to be wondering, well, what's with this guy's effort? Do we even want to pay him this money? Do we want to sign him? Do we want to trade for, like there's so many questions there. So let's assume more often than not then that these players are coming forth with a lot of energy and a lot of effort in week 18 in order to make sure that their careers continue on. Don Bevy says full PPR. Please pick one flex. I have Jamal Williams over Kamara right now. Okay, cool. Or would you go with Darius Slayton, Wanda Robinson, DeMarcus Robinson, or Myers, Tyjae Spears? In a full PPR, I probably would take one of those wide receivers, honestly. Let's see here. So as it currently stands, let's see. Of those wide receiver options, I play Slayton. That's probably the direction that I would go in there, Don Bevy. It's either Slayton or DeMarcus Robinson. I have them both ahead of Jamal Williams as it stands. Braun says, should I start Laporta or Ridley in my flex? I already have McBride. If Trevor Lawrence plays tomorrow, I'd play Ridley. If he doesn't, I'd play Laporta. Also, my name font is just copied and pasted. Anyone can do it? Really? Interesting. Okay. I've never seen that. San Antonio says, thank you, no problem. Glad I can help. All right, let's see here. Let me change the rankings on screen back to quarterback and tight end for those of you who have questions there. Scott Walker says, pick one, Javonte Williams, Jordan Mason, Justice Hill, Pierre Strong. As it currently stands, if I'm picking one of the four, I would play Javonte Williams. Alice Way says, thanks for the solid advice. Got me a championship. Got me to the championship. It's a shame that my commissioner did week 18. LOL. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's a shame, but it's just, the cards that you were dealt in this season. So we'll try to make the best of it and try to win a championship regardless. Jerry says Ridley/Slayton, higher ceiling / floor. It depends. Well, I don't even think it depends. I would say Ridley has the higher ceiling of the two, while he technically does have a pretty good floor of production. The floor, I think, is going to be dependent on whether or not Lawrence is active. So if Lawrence is inactive, I might just roll with Slayton just off the floor production, just to be safer in that scenario in comparison to what CJ Beathard could potentially provide, especially with Christian Kirk returning. Like, if it's going to be CJ Beathard, he may just, because we've seen him just be a check down machine and he just likes to throw it to Evan Ingram, maybe he just does the same thing with Christian Kirk and just peppers him with targets. That could be my only concern in that scenario. Let's see here. Okay, we took care of that. Is there anybody that I missed? Okay, so here's another question. Lance Barrett says, full PPR. I have Jada Reed in the flex, but if he does not play, I'm hosed. I have Swift, Henry, Chandler, Laporta on my bench, Ferguson at tight end. Do I gamble on Reed playing, or do I put in one of my other guys? When does Reed play tomorrow? Let's see here. NFL Week 18. What's the schedule look like? When does Reed play? So Reed plays tomorrow he plays tomorrow afternoon. So the afternoon games are Arizona, Seattle, Green Bay, Chicago, Los Angeles, Kansas City, Raiders. Okay. So your alternative options are who exactly? You said you have... Wait, what do the Eagles play? Eagles play in the afternoon as well, so you could end up pivoting there. So as it stands, Lance, if in fact you're in a situation in which Reed doesn't play, you pivot to Swift and you're good to go because they both play in the afternoon tomorrow. Braun says, thanks again, Andrew, for another great season. Thank you very much, Braun. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Carver says, hey, Andrew, what's up, Carver? If you have any questions, let me know, Carver. I'm here to help. We'll be here for the next 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and let's look at the weather. What's the weather look like in Baltimore again? Shall we? Let's see. What do we got here? I mean, when everyone in the stands is wearing a poncho because they're trying to avoid the downpour, that begins to cause a lot of concern for me. Now, the weather could be just a non-impactful kind of rain game, but time will tell, I suppose. Time will tell. All right, let's see here. Let's go back to the chat. We're good to go. Somebody was asking earlier in regards to some potential underdog plays. So besides Josh Allen, anytime rushing touchdown, and then going higher on Nico Collins receptions, the other plays that I found this weekend that I like, let's see here. Okay, let's see. What are the other plays that I liked? I like James Conner higher than his rushing yard total. What's the other play that I liked? I like Chris Godwin higher than his reception total. Those are other two plays. James Conner higher on rushing yards. Godwin higher on receptions. Also, Olave higher on receptions. Lance Barrett says, thanks. Swift is also questionable. Last I checked too. Though, yeah. He was questionable because he was dealing with an illness. I would assume, if I'm not mistaken, let me check here. From what I saw last night when I was putting together the injury report list, I think he had himself, let's see. Yeah, he practiced on Friday. So even though he was absent Wednesday and Thursday, he ended up practicing on Friday, which leads me to believe that he should be fine by the time we get to this weekend's game. So if you're sketched out about it, then sure, you can just pivot to playing have it Henry or something like that. But I'm fairly certain Reed's going to play, so I don't think any of your concern, Lance, should even be taken into account. But, yeah, I think Swift will be fine. It's not a big deal. Dylan says, do you think the Eagles will rest their players later in the game? Depends. The Eagles, okay, so here's the thing, right? So considering we're in a scenario in which the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys both play in the same time slot. Both those games start tomorrow, 1:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the Eagles require that the Cowboys lose to the Washington Commanders in order for the Eagles to win, in order to get the number 2 seed and win their division and get the home field advantage. They're probably going to start their guys and they're going to try to beat the living shit out of the Giants to the best of their ability. Now, the Eagles are obviously trending in the wrong direction, so it may be a difficult game, but nonetheless, I would assume that they're firing up their starters in order to try to get a win. If they weren't, then if they're not looking to try to win that game, there is no purpose at all for anybody to suit up. Jalen Hurts shouldn't be suiting up. Neither should A.J. Brown. Kelsey shouldn't suit up. None of them. Just take the loss and go on the road and try to take on Tampa Bay or something, So at this point, I'm assuming they're going to fire up their guys and they're going to play at a full capacity. So I'm not too worried about it. Hey, Andrew, Purdy doesn't play. Need a QB. Mayfield over Lawrence, full PPR. What do you think between them? All three of my teams are in the championship. So as it currently stands, Carver, yes, Purdy's not playing. So of the available options, Mayfield or Lawrence, considering I don't even know if Lawrence is going to play. Even if he does, I don't have him highly ranked because he's coming off a throwing shoulder injury, which is concerning. So I'd probably just take Mayfield there. I prefer to play Mayfield in that circumstance. Lance says some kind of illness, but practiced. Reed plays. Yeah, I mean, listen, if Reed plays, I was saying this yesterday. It's hilarious how last season, late in the year, Christian Watson was the rookie wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers that had a late season surge of success. This season, it's Jayden Reed as the rookie wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers with the late season surge of success. It's incredible. It's hilarious. Crunchy Cool says, Juwan Johnson or Jake Ferguson in the championship? Thanks for the help. I would take Juwan Johnson there. Thank you. Herman Vasquez says, is there a scenario they don't activate Deontay Foreman if Herbert is out? No, because who would back up Roschon Johnson, right? So if for example, we're in a scenario in which Khalil Herbert out, and then they're like, you know what, and then they say Deontay Foreman, who is an active member of the 53-man roster, they say, hey, you know what, he's a healthy scratch. If Roschon Johnson's the only back there, it would be a surprise to me. They would probably have to activate somebody else or elevate somebody else off the practice squad because there isn't any other running backs on the active roster. So I would assume Foreman would play if in fact Herbert is out. I don't know if unless they're like, hey, you know what, Foreman, we appreciate your efforts this year, but we're gonna try to look towards the future and we're gonna try to give more reps to Roschon Johnson. Certainly could happen, but I don't think that would take place. I would still think that they would activate Deontay Foreman just in case, maybe something happens to Roschon. You need another alternative option, a running back. You don't want to, like earlier this season in that game on Thursday night in which Chicago played against Washington, Roschon got a concussion. Khalil Herbert got an ankle injury. Deontay Foreman was inactive, and the fullback was getting himself rushing attempts in that game, who was primarily a special teams player. So they don't want to be in that kind of scenario. Let's see here. Tyrell Clay says, what is the likelihood that the Lions players get pulled? Depends. How much are they winning by? Again, I think that the Lions they don't have to play their starters, but the fact that they are leads me to believe that they're in a scenario in which they believe that they have a chance at the number 2 seed, even though they got screwed out of it last week with the refs, doing what they did. The Lions could very easily be in a scenario in which, just like last year, the Dallas Cowboys were a hot football team going into the NFL playoffs. They lose to Washington in Week 18. Could once again happen again. There's a reason why they played the game, and that's why I'm assuming that the Lions will go out, try to catch a victory here in order to, ensure that they could potentially get into a scenario in which maybe they get the number 2 seed and are able to get home field advantage up until maybe when they play against the 49ers. Let's hear. John Silva says, should I play Julio Jones instead of Jaden Reed since Devontae Smith is out? Absolutely not. No. Yes, Julio Jones scored 2 touchdowns last week, but that was on no one's bingo card. And I wouldn't trust a Julio that is on the Eagles in this current capacity over Jaden Reed. I believe Jaden Reed, just look at last week. Jaden Reed was questionable all week, still ended up playing balled out, so I'm not too worried about a scenario there. They just have him limited at practice, and they have to mark him as questionable because he is technically dealing with that chest injury, but I don't, the only reason he didn't return to the game last week is because the game was already over by the time he went to the locker room. Crunchy Cool says, pick one to sit. We have full PPR, Bijan, Brees, Montgomery, and Zamir. If I'm sitting one, I'm sitting Montgomery. I'm playing Bijan, Brees, and Zamir White over him. Herman says, thanks. Dropping Johnson to pick a Foreman. Okay, cool. Curious Kid said, hey, Andrew, can you choose my RB2 between the following? Khalil Herbert, Zeke, Chuba Hubbard, Singletary. Between those 4, I would play Zeke. Also, should I play another one of these options in the flex to replace Pickens? I would you know what? I think I might play Singletary ahead of Pickens. Let me look at the weather in Baltimore. Let me go to Twitter real quick and let me update it. Let's see how it looks. Let's see here. What does the latest look like? So as of 3 minutes ago, looking at this, the rain's moving, man. Not sure how much it's going to impact it. It could be a non-factor. I'm not a professional quarterback. I don't know how difficult it is to throw in the rain of that capacity, but it doesn't look like a fun day in Baltimore. I'll tell you that much. So as it stands, I probably play Singletary in the flex there. It's mainly motivated out of fear, but I think Singletary is a pretty good option if you're gonna pivot. Carver says, I'm on Ross St. Brown or Jefferson in a full PPR. I'm playing Laporta over Kelsey as he's set to play less. What do you think? Yeah, Kelsey shouldn't even play. I don't think he even suits up. I think he needs 16 yards to get 1,000 yards this season. I don't think he even cares about that. I think he wants to win another Super Bowl, so he'll probably sit out this week. Laporta's the better play. As for Amon-Ra and Jefferson, there is I would say that there's just as much of an incentive for Amon-Ra to play as Jefferson. I would think there's even more incentive and more motivation to play for Amon-Ra. So I'd play him over Jefferson, mainly because I prefer him in comparison to the alternative option. But yeah, Amon-Ra would be the play if I'm picking of the two. Corey Jackson in the chat was saying PPR, Eckler or Singletary. As it stands, I think it's close, but I think I'd probably just play Eckler, mainly because the scenario that we have here is a Kansas City Chiefs team that is not starting their main guys. There's no Mahomes, there's no Pacheco, there's no Rashee Rice, there's probably no Kelsey. Their defense is probably going to have some of their main guys out intentionally just to keep them healthy. So I think Eckler could have himself a pretty solid day. And they asked the Chargers interim head coach yesterday, like, hey, Eckler's X amount of yards away from meeting his incentives. And he was like, hey, we're going to give him the ball and we're going to hope that he gets 300 yards tomorrow. And we're going to feature him and we're going to make sure that he has every opportunity to potentially get those incentives and all that kind of jazz. So let's hope that they continue with that. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Drew in the chat. Says, won my second. Oh, it wasn't even a question. It was just a statement. It says, won my second fantasy using your advice. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it. Says, I won the cheaper of the two I signed up for. Used the video. You said pick Josh Allen first round, Hawkinson round. What is that? Pick Josh Allen first round. Was this a super flex draft? 2 QB league? If that was it, then I would say yes, that makes sense. If you pick Josh Allen in the first round in Superflex League, you probably made it to your finals. Because of all the quarterbacks in the National Football League that were healthy and didn't miss a game, I mean, I think the stat that I read the other day was Mahomes and Josh Allen both haven't missed a game in like 3 seasons due to injury. So, of course, they're always the go-to plays there in picks, especially in a Superflex 2 QB or 6-point per passing touchdown league. Let's see here. We took care of that. Easy says, Chargers kicker or Houston kicker. I prefer Houston's kicker. Thank you. Alrighty. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. Here to help in all capacities possible. Again, we'll be back tomorrow morning starting at probably, I'm thinking either 8 or 8:30 a.m. Leaning towards 8:30. Again, there's how many people are in here right now? There's 152 in comparison to a normal week, right? If this was Saturday of, I don't know. I mean, even last week. If this was last week, there's probably 800 people in here, and the chat is just going buck wild, right? Just because there's so many people asking for questions and stuff like that. So, considering I can get to every person's chat in the every question in the chat, in the live chat, and not just like have to focus on super chats, I'll probably start a little bit later tomorrow for sure. But I'll be here regardless with up-to-date rankings on screen. Omar in the chat says underdog picks for Steelers and Ravens game. I don't think I had any in specific that I was intrigued by. Let me look. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and let's see what exactly. Maybe I can pop it up on screen. Let's see. Yeah, I think I could pop it up on screen. So if I go there, and then maybe do one of these. Let's see. What play is actually, like, I like the idea of 16 rushing. I like the idea of like maybe this over 10 fantasy points. I would love for him to go off today. I just don't know, man. The weather is just so sketch. It seems like it's a rain game. What's the deal here? Everybody else on this side is just like, there's no numbers. So if it's me, probably Najee Harris is the one that I like the most. Outside of that, I probably just avoid it. And again, like I mentioned earlier, wait, where is he? Josh Allen. This is it, baby. This is the play. This is my favorite play of the week. By far and away, not even close. He has scored a rushing touchdown in 12 of the last 14 games. He has scored 15 in the last 14 total and has had back-to-back games of 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, it's a freebie. It is. For all intensive purposes. All right. Jason Roth says, great season. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. What happened to Khalil Herbert? So he was dealing with a back injury earlier in the week, and yesterday he didn't practice at all. So I'm assuming that they got to a point where like, yeah, listen, you can't go. Or he even maybe talked to the team doctor and was like, it's just not worth it. I'm just hurt. So he's probably not going to play this week if I was to make a guess. Carver Gaming says, this is the team I'm worried about. How does it sound? Mayfield, Rashad White, Achane, Jefferson, Olave, Njoku, Collins in the flex, Bills defense. Sound okay? Yeah, the only thing that I have an issue with is Njoku. That's it. With Joe Flacco not out there, I cannot trust that David Njoku does anything, and I don't think he even plays very much, if at all. Aaron says, will Waddle play tomorrow? I would say that there is a... If I was to... You know what, really quickly, I'm going to make this Najee Harris bet real quick on Underdog. Let me confirm that. That's done. Okay, good to go. If I was to guess the likelihood that Jalen Waddle is able to play tomorrow, I would probably lean towards him playing, being at... I'd say there's a 65 to 70% chance he plays tomorrow. Now, am I taking that to the bank? No. I am probably looking for an alternative option that is closely ranked to him. Otherwise, if I can't find one, you just have to kind of assess the risk based on how many points you're up this week and how the matchup kind of potentially could, play out. Dylan says, I'm up by 50 in the chip. Just curious, how do you feel about my lineup? Quarterback is Dak, fantastic. Running backs are Hall and Connor, fantastic. Lamb and Brown are my wide receivers, even better. Tight end is McBride, flex is Bijan, defense is Jacksonville, and Aubrey is your kicker. Dylan, congratulations. Firm handshakes. You are 2023 fantasy football champion. Congratulations on the dub. And we'll see you next season. That's pretty much what I think about your team. You got a bunch of studs across the board. Other options I got are Taylor and Olave and Goddard. So you've got just studs across the board. I mean, at this point, yeah, your team is just, it's a bunch of studs. So you're good to go. You're going to have a great week tomorrow, and you'll be good to go. Congratulations. Slippy Hill TV / PPR. I'm stuck on who to start at tight end. Sam Laporta, Evan Ingram, Juwan Johnson. In a full PPR, I have Evan Ingram ranked higher than Sam Laporta. Evan Ingram is my number 3 tight end in a full PPR. So in a full PPR, I'd go Evan Ingram there. Let's see here. Other option. Okay, we good that. Okay. UGA football fella says, do you think Justice Hill will get a bulk of the carries in Baltimore today? No, I actually think the bulk of the carries probably goes towards Melvin Gordon. That's why I have Melvin Gordon ranked on screen. Earlier in the week, I did think that there would probably be a scenario in which Justice Hill gets the majority of the touches, but I'm going to assume that they're going to try to keep him and Gus Edwards healthy. I know that they just signed Dalvin Cook, so technically they could be in a position where they're like, you know what, just give all the touches to Justice Hill because, we don't need Justice Hill as much anymore because we have Dalvin Cook coming in, but it's all speculation. I don't know how they're going to do it. This is why week 18 sucks, and that's why I just reserve to potentially just not try to play those kind of players because I just don't know what their workload is going to look like. Mark says, do you think Deontay will get more short catches in the weather? But I mean, I can't say one way or the other. I don't know what they want to run today. That offense changes up every week, which feels like every week. Easy says, what's your take on New England and Jets game? Is there a chance New England defense goes off? Both defenses should go off. Again, currently on my defensive rankings, it goes Dallas, Jets, New England, right? It's going to be a snow game, so we already know that on the East Coast. So besides it being snow, both quarterbacks probably won't find success. It'll be a run-heavy approach, probably be a lower-scoring game. If I'm looking for the unders, I don't know what that total looks like, but that could be a play in the given week. So I'm assuming both defenses probably go off, but again, it'll probably be a lower scoring game in which both the running backs are pretty much the entire offenses. Let's see here. Chris Foy says, back again. This is my opponent's team. Josh Allen, Gibbs, Etienne, Jefferson, St. Brown, Ingram, James Cook, defense. Yeah, pretty good team there, Chris, that you're playing up against. That's for sure. Gerardo says, this is my first time playing Underdog. I took the Allen rushing touchdown pick. It told me I had to make 2 selections for 3x. Sure, yeah. Do I need to make 2 picks or can I just bet one? No, you have to pick 2 picks minimum, and they both have to be on different teams. So if I was going to take another play, it would be later today, Nico Collins, higher than 5.5 receptions. That's the other play that I like a lot this weekend, Gerardo. Just put like a $5 sprinkle on it, nothing crazy. Let that 3x, and then whatever profits you make off that, then you just take those and you keep playing. You know what I mean? But we're not looking to, pay our mortgage. We're just looking to have fun. LJ says, "What's up, Andrew? Full PPR. I keep flip-flopping between Cook and Kenneth Walker as my RB2 and DJ Moore in the flex. What do you think?" Cook, Kenneth Walker is my RB2 and DJ Moore. Yeah, at this point, considering the way that this offense has functioned for the Buffalo Bills, it's so unpredictable that I'd rather just play Kenneth Walker and DJ Moore because I know what I'm going to potentially get out of the scenario, especially in a full PPR. So I'd play Kenneth Walker. I'd play DJ Moore. Chris Foy says, "Remember, I am up 23 points." Yeah, you should be fine. I mean, ultimately, regardless of what his team looks like, you should be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, he's got a good looking team, but you never know. Just because, let's put this in perspective. Like Rachaad White's been a top 5 running back for fantasy this season, but last week what did he do? He left. He put up a goose egg. Not a goose egg, but he just didn't put up a great game. What does it say? According to Ian Rappaport, Trevor Lawrence pushing to play week 18, not at risk of re-injury. Good. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So anyway, where were we at? Slippy Hill says Evan Ingram, even if Lawrence doesn't play, well, Lawrence is pushing to play. And even if he doesn't, I would still play Evan Ingram ahead of Laporta in a full PPR. Because I really do like his utilization with CJ Beathard. What do we have here? Ben Moore says PPR. Should I start Reed or Ridley now that Trevor Lawrence is playing? I would still play Reed there. Yeah, I still feel very comfortable playing Reed in that circumstance. Ridley gets a little bit higher in terms of my rankings, but nothing crazy. Let's see here. Jamel Joyner, thank you very much for the super chat, Jamel. Appreciate it. Says in a full PPR, can I trust that Ferguson plays the entire game? Yeah, I mean, look, let's just put it this way. The Dallas Cowboys need to win in order to ensure that not only do they get let's just put it this way. If they don't win the division and they don't get a home game, and the Eagles, if in fact they win the division, and if in fact the Detroit Lions win, they win the number 2 seed. So this is a must-win game for the Dallas Cowboys. Their guys are full out going to play the entire game until clocks hit 0. Now, if in fact they're up 40 points by the third quarter, which is absolutely potentially possible, then maybe we don't see as much Dak or CeeDee Lamb, Pollard, Ferguson in the fourth quarter. But in the first 3 quarters of the game, I can assure you they're going to be pouring it on to that defense. So I wouldn't be worried about Jake Ferguson. Let's see here. K-Tip says, how does my team look? I have Allen, White, Hall. Okay, so Josh Allen obviously always is great. We have Rachaad White and Breece Hall, fantastic. DeAndre Swift, Puka Nacua. I'm not too keen on playing Puka Nacua this week. So if you have an alternative option, that's fine. A.J. Brown's great, especially with Devontae Smith out. Patriots defense is great. I'm up in the air about playing Laporta or Goddard. How does the team look? And which tight end? The team looks good. I wouldn't play Puka, and I would play Goddard over Laporta if I had a choice. Thank you. Mainly because, again, Devontae Smith is inactive. White did 7.6 PPR points last week. Yeah, that was rough. Samuel Walker says, PPR, I'm having a hard time choosing between Nico Collins and Michael Pittman Jr. I'm in a close one. I need to get it right. I don't think you can get it wrong with either of the two. I'm going to be totally honest. Now, I would prefer to play Nico Collins primarily because the assumption is already we know that Noah Brown is out. On top of that, Robert Woods did not practice all week long. So if both of those wide receivers are out, I mean, this is a Nico Collins game, especially in a must-win to make the playoffs, win and get in. I would assume that Nico Collins probably has himself a lot of overall opportunity, a lot of receptions, a lot of work, and a lot of production. On the other side, I mean, yes, Michael Pittman, not as fruitful of a play in comparison to normal last week, but still always going to get himself a high volume of opportunity and is in a great matchup against Houston secondary. So I think they're both great plays. I don't think you can go wrong with either, but I do prefer the upside of Nico Collins as it stands, considering the injuries to the other wide receivers in that offense. Herman Vasquez says, thinking of sitting Diggs and to play Warren, Mitchell, Elliott, and White. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going with Olave on my wide receiver slot. 12. Okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, Herman. Steve says, is Waddle out? As it currently stands, no, unless there's any new information in which there's been potentially revealed, in which I don't know because I've been live streaming. But as it currently stands, nothing new. He did practice limited yesterday, so he could end up playing. I say it's about a 65-70% chance he plays. If I had to guess, mainly because he missed last week, so hopefully he had recovered by this time. Let's see here. Ravens defense still a start. They could be. I mean, are they a start outright? I don't know, man. I think in a top 15 capacity, sure, but in terms of my top 12 defense rankings, I'm not willing to post them there and feel super confident about the scenario. Isn't Puka shooting for the rookie receiving record? Yeah, he absolutely is. But the rookie receiving record is 29 yards away. And how many quarters do we think it takes for Puka Nacua to get 29 yards? Especially when the whole offense is going to be predicated on him getting the ball. So if I was to guess, it probably happens in the first quarter. If not the first half, and then he sits for the rest of the game. Let's see here. Steve says, is my team good to go? Half PPR, Kyler, Eckler, Zamir, CD, Olave, Waddle, Ingram, Bengals, Santos, kicker. Yeah, so Waddle's the only player that I'm sketched out about there, Steve. Considering they play on Sunday Night Football, and you can see my rankings over there to the over there, right side of the screen. If you have any alternative options at a top, let's say 30 capacity in comparison to Waddle, I might just pivot just to be safe, because I just don't know for a fact whether or not Waddle's going to play by the time we get to tomorrow night, right? Let's see here. Emily says, I'm playing my boyfriend in the championship, and I see that he dropped Reed and is playing Addison in the flex. Not saying anything. You should not. All quiet on the Western Front. Don't say anything. Keep it as quiet as possible. No mention of... I'm not even going to say the name. I'm not going to say it, because I don't want anybody hearing it. Nothing. Just leave it as such. Hope he doesn't remember to change it. Good to go there, Emily. Pacheco out? Yeah, probably, yes. Jake Jones says, full PPR. I need 2 flexes. Dortch, Pierre Strong, Gabe Davis, Ronnie Bell, Josh Palmer, Jordan Mason. As it stands in a full PPR, I probably end up going like Greg Dortch alongside of Pierre Strong. As of right now. Is Mostert out? I don't know. Addy, let me call him real quick. Give me a second. Let me shoot him a text. Let me ask him. I have no clue, brother. I have no clue. I have as much information as anybody else. As it stands, he's questionable. Tomorrow night, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. Probably try to have another alternative option available that is better than him. If not, closely ranked to him on my rankings. But, so we don't know. He practiced limited yesterday, so he could end up playing. I have Madison, Mason, Robinson, Chandler as my backup for Puka. Roll with one of them. Yeah, I'd feel pretty comfortable rolling with like Demarcus Robinson there, because at least I know he'll play for majority of the game. Anadi says, brief look at these teams. Who are you favoring? Tyrod Taylor, Amon-Ra, JJ, JT, Zamir White, McBride. Jaguars, Kaimi Fairbairn, Jake Browning, CeeDee Lamb, Shaheed James. I prefer the first team Minotti by a long shot, not even close. If CeeDee Lamb goes for 40 points again, we could be in trouble, but I still prefer the first team. Jared says, I didn't realize it was that close. Yeah, no problem. You're good. Steve says, my only other wide receiver is Debo and Ayuk. Yeah, Debo and Ayuk, I don't even know if they're playing tomorrow. I would hope that they could play a little bit, but I don't even know if they do. Rob says, I have Amon-Ra, Gibbs, and Laporta. Should I be concerned and pick up the Bills tight end and Thielen? No, I would play them all. I have A-Chain and Olave on my bench. A-Chain and Olave on your bench. Those guys should be playing. A-Chain should play ahead of Gibbs, and that's about it. That's the only thing I would change, actually. Jaguars or Ravens defense, I prefer the Jags. Instead of Waddle, I could play both Goddard and Ingram. That's a pretty good swap. I don't mind that at all. Khan says, my starting players are sitting now. I have Hurts and A.J. Brown. I'm short at wide receiver. Do you think Jaden Reed is going to play? Yes, I do believe he's going to play. And also, I have Connor, Achane, Zamir White, Laporta, Jets. Yeah, you have a pretty good, solid team there, Con. Should be good to go. All right, guys. I do appreciate you guys joining me this morning. I do appreciate all of you guys who have just, asked questions in the chat, answered other questions in the chat for other people, click the like button, sent in a super chat, all that kind of jazz. Greatly appreciated. I'll be back tomorrow morning, probably starting at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, another hour and a half prior to the morning kickoff. Hope to see you guys there. We'll have rankings on screen available. I just wanted to go ahead, say thank you once again for you guys supporting the channel in this week 18. I know, again, many of you don't play in week 18, but for those of you who did, I wanted to go ahead once again for another consecutive year, come out, show my support, try to help you guys capture a championship, because that was the entire purpose of the season, right? So hopefully we can go ahead and accomplish that. Much appreciated. Enjoy the games today. Hopefully they pan out to the best of their overall abilities. I'm going to go watch this game. Do appreciate y'all. And until tomorrow, I'm going to cue the music, and we'll see you guys. Much love, and I'll see you guys. Peace.